everybody, and welcome to Silent Podcast, where we are anything but silent. My name is Katie, and I am here on behalf of Bounce Checks, our new Big Brother coverage for Big Brother 24. I am part of our panel, along with Isaiah, Lance, Josiane, and all the wonderful guests that we have with us from time to time. This is a new version of our podcast. As you can see, I'm here by myself today. And this new version is called Feed Bites. So what we're going to do throughout the season, or for as long as the feeds remain interesting, really, and as long as you guys want updates, we will be coming to you a couple of times a week to give you quick little bites of info from the feed, just a quick little snack to satiate your feed appetite. Not too long. We won't go too deep into a ton of gameplay. We'll keep it short, 10, 15, 20 minutes, just depending on what's going on in the house. And we'll give you the full update of everything that you missed. And then you will also be back on Fridays, as we were for Big Brother Canada, to discuss all the things happening in the house throughout the week, the evictions, the vetoes, the episodes. We'll give it all to you there. So this is your first episode of Feed Bites. I will be your consistent host, Katie. I will have guests with me as well. Josiane was supposed to join me today, but unfortunately she's having some technical difficulties, so that is why I am here alone. Shout out to you, Josie. I hope everything gets fixed with your computer very soon. So here we are. This is our first one. I'm coming to you on July 9th, if you're listening to this over the podcast. And what we're here to talk about today is just the status of the house. We have only had one episode of the show so far. So where we're at right now is we have Daniel as our HOH. It's Saturday. Feeds are down currently to review, to play the veto. And we have our nominees are Michael and Terrence. So throughout the week so far, the game has been a little bit slow. We haven't had a ton of game talk up until really mid day 2 into yesterday. So really where we're at currently is that Daniel has nominated Michael and Terrence. He feels, well, his excuse is that they haven't really talked much game with him. Terrence, I think that's true. Michael, not so much. Originally, Terrence coming into the house was saying that he wanted to put up a number of large targets. He really wouldn't want to work with the muscular guys. But yesterday he had a conversation with Monty. He had a conversation with Pooch. He had a conversation with Joseph. And he really felt connected with them because they're tall, strong men. If you guys are watching that on the feeds, or if you've seen it on Twitter, there's a lot of jokes going around about tall, strong men. That is why. So he kind of changed his mind after that. I think he's really afraid to put up these tall, strong guys because he's afraid that one of them will win the veto and come back. And he's really convinced himself that Michael is a target. He knows that Michael is another super fan. He feels worried that Michael's kind of always watching and always looking at everything and really knows how to play the game. So originally it went into he didn't want to put up Michael. Now Michael has become the target. So nominees again are Michael and Terrence. Michael's a target. Daniel really wants Terrence to stay in the house. So that's where we are with nominees. Where we're at in terms of relationships in the house, friends in the house. Seth in the chat says thoughts and prayers to our persecuted tall strongs. Exactly. Pour one out for our strong men. It's so hard. It's so hard being a strong man. A tall strong man out there. So in terms of relationships, starting off, the girls hit it off right away. We've had Alyssa and Paloma become fast friends. We have had Jasmine as part of that group as well. Amira has also been close with them. They've been kind of a relatively tight 4. We've also had Indy as, you know, who's been in and out of that group, and Brittany. They came up with with an all girls alliance called the Girls, which, yep, that's what it's called. So that consists of Alyssa, Paloma, Amira, Jasmine, Brittany, and Indy. So that's kind of where we're at, notably excluding Taylor, notably excluding Nicole. Throughout the week, the girls have really been down on Taylor. Up until yesterday, things started to shift, and things have been continuing to shift today. But up until late in the evening yesterday, or late in the evening Big Brother time, I guess, I'm on the East Coast, so it's later in the evening for me. Things started to shift a little bit, not a ton, but we've seen a lot of hate towards Taylor from the girls. In the sense that it's like, I don't want to use the word bullying because I know people get sensitive about that, but it really has been pretty harsh and pretty rough against her. She doesn't know, though, which is also kind of rough on her, is that all of this is happening behind her back. But it really started with Alyssa and Paloma calling her pageant girl, kind of saying she was going to work with the guys. She doesn't seem like she's a girl's girl, was afraid, that the guys would really like her, and that things just wouldn't work out and she's rude, and she's never done anything like that to make them think that she's rude or come off as rude. But this is just kind of what they have in their head based on their own biases and microaggressions that they're kind of sharing outwardly, which is kind of wild. So that's kind of where we're at. But yesterday, we had a really nice dinner where everybody opened up at the table and they went around the room and they all shared what they were grateful for and what they had gratitude for in their lives. And Taylor really opened up. So it seemed like between that and then just having some conversations with the girls and becoming a little more close with them and having some additional chats, they really seem to be starting to warm up a little bit to her. Paloma has said that she feels bad for the way that she has treated, or the way that she's spoken about. She hasn't really treated Taylor poorly to her face. So the way that she's spoken about Taylor. So the tides might be shifting, but we still do have Jasmine, who's not a fan and is like, don't forget what she did. Just because she was nice a couple of times doesn't mean that she's not, her behavior. There's no behavior to point back to. Brittany and Taylor had a great conversation last night, and it seems like Brittany was very close to telling her about the Girls Alliance, but didn't. But Brittany did say, I want a strong woman to start winning these comps. I don't think I'm physically apt enough to start winning them, but I want a woman to win. I have your back. So it seems like they made a pretty good bond. We also had a great conversation between Michael and Taylor. So Taylor's making some inroads here. She has a good relationship with Terrence. Seems like Daniel is starting to like Taylor. Nicole's coming around on Taylor a little bit. So Taylor, I think, is getting a little bit more well integrated. It just took her a couple of days to really start making some of those relationships. But it's great to see that we're finally getting her a little bit more comfortable having some conversations. Seth in the chat says, conspiracy hat, do we think producers ask them leading questions to make them have a sudden change of heart towards Taylor? Could be true. It could very well be true. I don't know. But it does seem like they all kind of had a shift. It sounded like today, even Amira and Indy were talking about how maybe they were a little harsh towards Taylor. Could have been something that was asked to them in the diary room that maybe tipped them off that people weren't happy with what they were seeing. It's totally possible. Or it's possible that they just got to know her a little bit better. Could be a little of both, perhaps. I don't know. She hasn't been brought into the Girls Alliance yet, though. I do believe today she was asking a couple of questions around, like, do you think that there's a Girls Alliance? Or like, is there a Girls Alliance that you guys haven't brought me into? But she's not in it yet. In Alliance talk, we do have another 6-person alliance called Mamba. So this is really a lot of Paloma's handiwork, which is kind of wild because, as we know, if you've watched the episode on Wednesday, the premiere, Paloma is part of the backstage along with Brittany and Alyssa. Pooch chose them to be part of the backstage. So that means that they do not have a vote this week. They cannot compete in any competitions, and they're not safe from being evicted. Pooch is safe, and he can compete in the next HOH, but the girls are not. So this group is not the most powerful, unfortunately, because they do have 2 out of the 3 girls that are unable to vote. But Paloma's really putting in a lot of work this week so far. She's having a ton of conversations. She built Girls with Alyssa, but then they said, you know what, we need to have this like additional alliance. It's kind of like level 6. We need half girls, half guys. So they put together what is now dubbed as Mamba, which is made up of Michael, who's a new addition, Alyssa, Paloma, Monty, Kyle, and Amira. So again, that's Michael, Alyssa, Paloma, Monty, Kyle, and Amira. The original member was Pooch before the alliance was necessarily named Mamba. He's out. He doesn't know that he's out, but he's out. And Michael's in. As I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, Michael is on the block currently. So there's a little bit of conversation around like, who are we going to save? Is it going to be Michael? Is it going to be Terrence? Right now, Michael has all of Mamba. It's questionable if he has Taylor. We don't know if he has Indy, but Daniel wants Terrence to stay. Daniel is very firm on wanting Terrence to stay. He does not want the veto used. There was a conversation earlier today with Amira and Daniel about potentially throwing the veto to Daniel. But I'm getting ahead of myself here because who's playing the veto? We have Daniel, Michael, and Terrence, obviously. We are 2 noms in our HOH. We also have Amira, Turner, and Indy. So Turner and Pooch are very close thus far. They really like Terrence, so they're playing to save Terrence right now. Turner said he would probably use the veto on Terrence, but Daniel really doesn't want the veto used on Terrence. So we'll see what happens there. Terrence also total gem, by the way. He's had a conversation today with Daniel. Daniel has told him that he's not the target. He wants him to stay. So he knows that Daniel is rooting for him to stay. He's working, he's talking, he's really putting in a lot of work this morning, talking to some of the guys. He's talking to Turner. He was talking to Taylor. Taylor did say to him that she would vote to keep him, but we don't really know right now where Taylor's leaning. We know she really likes Terrence, but she had a great game conversation with Michael last night. So it seems like she could also be potentially going to vote to stay with vote to keep Michael. She's also considering, since she's talking a little bit more with the girls, if the girls do bring her into the loop a little bit more, I then have a feeling that she will keep Michael safe over Terrence. So I think it's so early. They're still playing the veto right now. The feeds are down. We don't know yet what's going to happen, but that's kind of where we're at right now. Like I said, these are going to be short feed updates, but again, let me I'll take a couple of steps back around, you know, just some of the Taylor stuff. I think it's I'm happy that she's finally rising like a phoenix, and I hope that she can really get her claws in and stick them in and get some stable footing here with these girls. But I think with Paloma, you never really know. She's a little all over the place, as we've seen all over the internet. If you're on Big Brother Twitter or on Reddit, Paloma really is a wild card. Daniel is also giving me a little bit of Frenchie energy, but not to the extent of Frenchie. So if you watch Big Brother 23, you know Frenchie was really out of control and all over the place. Daniel's not, but he is putting people up and then kind of creating a narrative around himself, around it to convince himself. So Frenchie kind of did that last season, which we saw in the beginning. He's doing that now with Michael. He originally was like, I want to put up the strong guys, but I'm scared. Now Michael's up. He kind of now is creating a narrative in his head that Michael didn't talk game with him. Michael did talk game with him the night before nominations. And it sounds like Daniel kind of like stopped the conversation and was like, maybe come back later. So he's the one that ended the conversation, but his excuse is that that Michael didn't talk enough game with him. So it's a little questionable. Now it's like he wants to work with the strong guys. When coming into the house, he said he didn't want to work with strong guys and didn't want strong guys in his alliance. But I think they've convinced him that because he's tall and he won that first comp, that he is also one of the strong guys. The notable thing here is that Daniel is not part of any structure or any alliance. So anything could happen to Daniel next week. I think he's really playing to keep himself safe, which is understandable, but he's not doing what he should be doing in terms of building a power structure around himself. So anything, again, could happen next week. We do have some other, pairs forming. We have Daniel is really close with Nicole. They made a final two. I believe they're named. They're called the Rogue Rats. Turner and Brittany are pretty close. They've had a number of good conversations. Brittany's giving him a lot of information. Turner and Pooch are also very close. Kyle and Pooch are pretty close. Alyssa and Paloma are obviously very close. There's been some flirting with Kyle and a few of the girls. Alyssa has been flirting a little bit with Kyle. Kyle's been flirting a little bit with Indy. I think, we'll have to see what happens. Dominic says, I wouldn't count this HOH until we see if there's a renom. He's considered a lot of guys. Exactly. He's been talking about a lot of the guys this week. He even said a little bit earlier to Nicole that if the veto is used on either Terrence or Michael, he will reconsider a strong guy, but he's nervous about it. So he doesn't want to set himself up for these guys to all band together and come after him. The guys are working together. They do have an alliance called the Oasis. So that's Pooch, it's Turner, it's Dan, it's Kyle, it's Monty, and it's Joseph. Notice Terrence is not in any of these, unfortunately. We also have the Motley Crew, which I don't know that they're able to actually name themselves this, but that's Daniel, it's Pooch, and it's Turner. But I don't think we know how solid that is. So there's a lot of talk happening. We haven't really seen anything fully shake out. Seth is saying, has Paloma slept more than 4 hours total since moving into the house? I don't know. I mean, Paloma's really been all over the place. It's kind of interesting because a lot of this house gets skews on, I don't want to say old because I'm in my 30s, but on the older side of, being in their 30s and late 20s. We have Nicole in her 40s and Terrence in his late 40s. Paloma is the youngest house guest. I believe she's 22. And she is whipping these people into all of these different power structures and these conversations. And it's very interesting that she can kind of have that command over the house. So it'll be interesting to see where she goes. The other thing is that we still don't really know what the backstage twist is. So that, again, that is, it's Pooch is the backstage boss. He chose Brittany, Alyssa, and Paloma to be backstage with him. Like I said, he's safe this week, cannot be evicted, and he's also able to compete for the HOH next week. Brittany, Paloma, and Alyssa are not safe this week, but they're not able to be nominated. They're not able to vote. So again, Mamba is great in the sense that they have numbers, but 2 of their numbers can't vote. The girls are really the ones that are fighting to keep Terrence safe, but again, 2 of the girls can't vote. So we'll really see, keep Michael safe, not Terrence safe. I'm sorry. They want to vote out Terrence. They want to keep Michael, but 2 of the girls can't vote. Michael and Brittany also had a really great game conversation earlier, and it sounds like they really have each other's back. So we know Michael has Brittany. I think we'll really be seeing over after the veto is played where things are going to shake out. But today, specifically earlier on, there was a lot of conversation about trying to get votes. Who's going to vote for who? What are we going to do at the veto? How many numbers do we have? I only need 5 votes. Keep in mind, it is only Saturday. The eviction does not take place until Thursday. There's also, renoms take place on Monday. So there's a lot of time. Dominic says she talks too much, but at least she's talking. Totally agree. She really is she and I think Amira, but Amira in a very different way, are really having a lot of game focused conversations. Paloma is a little frenetic. She's like kind of all over the place. But Amira constantly going up to the HOH. She was really the first person to go up into the HOH and talk game with Daniel. Daniel, I think, might be on to her as well as Nicole. I think Nicole and Daniel have kind of sniffed Amira out, and they're like, I don't know if she can if she's telling the truth or if she's just bringing this back because she has a thing with the girls. Nicole also is kind of like, well, I don't know if the girls have something. If they do have something, they very well could, but they didn't bring me in, which they do. They do have something. She and Taylor are notably the only 2 left out of the All Girls Alliance. So they're onto her a little bit. I think she might be working a little too hard right now for Daniel, but I think Daniel's mind is also going a mile a minute. He also now feels really good with Taylor. So like I said, Taylor's really over the last 14, 20 hours has been really putting in work. So that's kind of where we are. Dominic is asking, I haven't kept up with the podcast, so I don't know, but did you have a winner pick? I don't have a winner pick right now, but we did do our silent podcast draft last night. So my draft team is Amira was my first pick. Brittany was my second pick, Indy, and Terrence. So obviously Terrence was the last pick. I picked first in the draft, so Terrence was the last one. He came to my team, but I actually am very happy to have Terrence. I think Terrence is a gem, and I think if he could stay this week and start working a little bit more and making some relationships with the guys, maybe he could. I don't know that he would make it too far. I don't know that he has a shot to win, but I would like to see him in the house a little bit more. I would love actually to see both Michael and Terrence stay. I know it's a long shot. We'll see what the backstage twist brings. But for now, I would say if I had to choose, I think maybe Amira, I could see taking it home. I could also see Monty. Monty, I think, has a really good archetype coming into this game. He's really strong. He has a great personality. He's really going with the flow. He's not too commanding. So I think that'll make a lot of people feel really comfortable with him. I think right now probably Monty would be my winner pick. With the potential of Amira, I think Brittany has a good shot, actually. I think Brittany's putting in a lot of interesting work behind the scenes. I think she's maybe downplaying herself a little too much in the sense that she doesn't have the strength to win competitions. She's not going to be strong. I think she's underestimating herself a little bit here. We also don't really know what the competitions are going to be this season because we do have a new competition director or creator. The former director of the competitions has left, so we have somebody new on board. So we could see some different some difference in the comps, I guess, to be seen. Dominic also asks, who's your sleeper pick to take it all? Someone most people wouldn't see coming. I think my sleeper pick to take it all would be, I'm just looking at these names here and at these photos of everybody. I think Taylor could do it. If she gets these girls off of her back, I think she could take it. And I think Brittany is a sleeper pick. I think, like I said, Brittany's putting in a lot of really great work. Also, Michael. If Michael can get it together, I think, what I didn't mention earlier on is that Michael has been really quiet over the last few days, over the beginning of the game. He's been very observant. I think, he's a super fan, and we know that he's a super fan. He's played a lot of orgs and minis and live reality games that emulate a lot of these types of games, like a Big Brother or Survivor. Probably being in the house, and we talked about this a little bit on our draft podcast last night, maybe is like a shell shock to him. That's kind of what it feels like to me. And it seems like he's just taking it all in and trying to see where he fits, where, people are taking that as him being really quiet and him not talking game. Now it seems like he's turned it on and he's ready to go. He had some cam talk this morning kind of saying, Daniel thinks I can't do this. Well, like, fuck Daniel. He thinks I'm easy. This lit a fire under me. So he's using this to fuel him. So if he can win the veto, if he can pull a little bit of a Derek X, pull a veto, win a veto in the first competition, the first veto, and then change the narrative around him, I think that he could build a structure around himself. Feels like he's at the bottom of the six right now, but they all are leaning towards saving him. So he's in it. It's not like he's just a convenient six that they don't really care about and he's expendable. He's in it. They're not giving a ton of information to Pooch or Turner that they're keeping Daniel. I mean that they're keeping Michael. So we'll see what happens. But I think he could really bring it home. Like I think Taylor has great game sense, and I think Brittany has great game sense. I think Paloma's gonna light the candle at both ends a little too much and burn out. Alyssa, not really giving me much. I think, she's there. She's like a number 2 to Paloma, but she's not really giving me a ton. Amira, I think, is a really good player so far, but I think she is going to probably dig herself a little bit of a hole. I think she's not as subtle as maybe she thinks that she is. So it depends on some of the relationships that she continues to make in the house and if people start to get onto her. I think people are onto her a little bit already. So we'll really see. We'll see how it goes. Have I said what I think will come about this backstage twist? So I don't know. What I would love is obviously America's voting to keep one of the 3 girls safe. So obviously there's 2 girls that are potentially up for eviction. I'd be interested to see if there's a competition between the 2 of them or if they're going to become additional nominees. I mean, I don't really know. I am, to be fully transparent with you, I didn't watch Big Brother 16, so I'm not familiar with Battle of the Block, so I don't know exactly what Battle of the Block consists of. I know there's been some rumors about Battle of the Block coming back. I know people don't like it. I could see them doing some kind of a competition to have one of them be a 3rd nominee. I hope that this is only a 1-week twist because it is a little strange to have 4 people not able to vote. Seth says if it becomes another Battle of the Block, I'll walk into the sea. Again, I'm totally ignorant to Battle of the Block. I know it's kind of crazy. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I've seen, a few theories on Twitter. What do you guys, does anybody in the chat do you have any theories that you want to share with me before we wrap it up? I'm happy to share them and talk through them with you guys. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. It would be interesting if one of them became like a replacement nominee somehow. I'm not sure. Joseph says it's weird that only 5 votes are casted. As we speak, feeds are back. Oh, great. Feeds are back. This is the second time that as soon as we started a podcast, we know what's going on. So let's see. Let's quickly see who won the veto. Let's see. I'm scrolling. Michael won the veto. Breaking news, everybody. Breaking news. Michael won the veto. He did it. He pulled it out. Derek X version 2. Let's go, Michael. This is going to be a fun week. Daniel is going to start to spiral. I'm very excited. This is great. I'm like truly smiling. If you're listening to me in podcast form, I'm smiling. I'm excited to break this news live with you all. Seth says the thing with Battle of the Block is that whoever wins has safety for the week. So it became the strategy to put 2 people you want to stay and could win. Oh, see, that's terrible. That's terrible. Okay. Kyle got to go. I'm very interested to see how things are going to go. With that, let's probably wrap up here. Like I said, these are going to be short 20 minute. We're 25 minutes right now. We'll be like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, a couple of times a week. I'm sure we will be back very soon with another feed bite for you guys. But we wanted to make this like a fully digestible, easy, not too long. Don't want to take up too much of your time, especially on a weekend. Yeah, we'll be back with some of the reactions maybe tomorrow. We're going to keep fast and loose with these updates. They're not going to be every day, but they will be a few times throughout the week. Just to kind of update you on where things are. So when things are interesting, we'll come and give you some updates on them. Sometimes it'll be me by myself. Again, like I mentioned, Josie Ann was supposed to be here with me today, but unfortunately she had some computer issues, so she will be with us maybe next time. So that's that. Let me know how you guys like these feed bites, if you want me to change the format a little bit. Obviously, since it's myself, I'm just leaving it a little more conversational with the chat who's live with us here today. So quickly, I will give a couple of quick plugs for Silent Podcasts. My name is Katie. If you guys don't know me already, if this is the first time that you're tuning in, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RealSlimKatie, or on Twitch at twitch.tv/RealSlimKatie with an underscore at the end. You can also listen to me on all of our Big Brother coverage on Bounce Checks. That's going to be the official name of our podcast this season. This is Bounce Checks Feed Bites. You can also check me out on The Cool Water Show, where we talk all things Real Housewives. You can check me out on TJ Hates Quitters, this upcoming season of the Challenge USA. Carrie and I will be covering that together. We're thinking also about covering The Bachelorette, myself and a few others here at Silent Podcast, so we may kick that off. I think there's one thing that I'm potentially missing, and I don't know what it is. No, I think I got them all. Okay, great. Thank you guys so much. I will see you all very soon. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Kept it under the 30-minute mark, which was my goal. And have a great rest of your weekend if you're listening live. Have a great rest of your day if you're listening later. And I'll be back with more content for you guys soon. Bye.